Thank you, choir. Thousands of years ago, people looked in wonder and awe at the skies and the rivers and the animals and each other, and they asked questions like, how did all of this get here? How did we get here? Why are things this way? How does everything work? And what does it all mean anyway? And beautiful stories were created and told and passed on through storytellers with a little change here and a little change there until eventually they were written down. And several of these stories can be found in our own scriptures. And I imagine that something similar happened for us to have the story of the Tower of Babel, or some say Babel. Why did people begin to build buildings? Why did they put lots of buildings in one place and call it a city? Why build such towering structures? Why are there different languages? Why are there people scattered all over the world, grouped together in clusters speaking the same way? However we got this story, here it is in our scriptures, waiting for us to interpret it and to try to find meaning for us in the 21st century. Now, if your church school classes were anything like mine, you were taught something like this. As more people come together, they become proud and arrogant, and they build a city. They build a tower. They make their plans and make decisions, and they decide to make a name for themselves. And they try to reach God, or perhaps become equal to God. And because of their pride and their arrogance, God comes down and stops them in their tracks, putting an end to their scheme. God gives them different languages and scatters the people all over the world, the reason being to punish them. Scattered all over the world, they will be unable to understand each other. They won't be able to work together. They can't finish the city or the tower, and God will break them of their rebellious ways. In other words, God brings diversity into the world so that people will be confused, unable to understand one another, and find it really difficult to work together for common purposes. With this interpretation of the story, diversity is a problem, a rather big problem. Diversity is a result of sin, and diversity is bad. I wonder what that might say about Fort Street, as diverse as we are. I have a hunch that might not sit too well with us. And I wonder if there might be a different way to hear this story. Notice the people decide to do three things: build a city, build a tower, and make a name for themselves. Notice, too, God comes down twice. First, God comes down to see what these people are doing, what they are up to, what they have built. Second, God comes down to act, to put a stop to their plans, to thwart their ambitious project. While the people are trying to make a name for themselves, I wonder if what God sees is people building for themselves and for themselves alone. People focused inward. People acting in their own self-interests. I wonder if God sees people clustering together in an insular community, with everyone pretty much being the same, where everyone is working to preserve their way of life without being bothered by anyone or anything else. Could it be that God comes down a second time to put an end to their plan so that a transforming moment can break in upon the scene, a moment when their lives are thrown off course so they will have to set their sights in a new direction? Because you see, now with the people scattered everywhere, if the people intent on their building are going to accomplish anything really big, if they're going to achieve something of significance, they will have to work together with the people who are not part of their community anymore because they're scattered all over the world. People who no longer talk or live the way they do. In other words, people who are different. They will have to find some way to understand some people they no longer know, some way to overcome their differences by building bridges across the things that keep them apart, by forming relationships stronger than their differences, by going out and by inviting in someone they don't understand? What if God stops these people in their tracks, blocking their plans because it is the only way their lives are going to actually be transformed? What if they will only become more closely aligned with the holy if they are forced to stop focusing on themselves, if they are pushed beyond what they already know, if they have to be intentional about going out and finding someone different from themselves, and then figuring out a way to become community, working together with room for all of their differences. God shifts their world, shakes up things really a lot. So now they have to work intentionally with people who sometimes are hard to understand, people who don't talk like them, people who don't see things the way they do, people who don't do things in the way they're used to. And they have to figure out some way, not just to get along, but to work in tandem if anything of significance is going to be accomplished. And what if God knows that this kind of work is crucial to their transformation? The people have to start building relationships across differences if they are going to accomplish anything of significance, if they are going to be transformed. What if our own transformation, Fort Street's congregation's transformation, and your own personal transformation will come by God shaking things up, stirring up our lives, shifting our world, making this faith community even more diverse, so that we have to become even more intentional in trying to understand one another. So we have to develop deep within ourselves an irresistible desire to learn what we do not yet know, and to learn it from the people whom we have yet to meet. And what if this intentional effort, this path, is the way to our transformation? What if trying to form relationship and community with those who see life from a different angle, with those who embody God's image differently, is the very thing we need in order to experience the holy more profoundly? And what if we have to start intentionally bringing into our own community more people with different perspectives and more people whom we may not really understand? That is, if we are going to accomplish anything of significance and if we are going to be transformed. The hard work of entering into a relationship with another person and really trying to understand someone else creates a space for the Spirit to move in our lives. When we have a deep, honest, genuine encounter with another person, trying honestly to know who they are, we truly will be changed forever. Now, this is way too much work for a lot of people. On the day of Pentecost, the birthday of the church, the day Jesus' ministry takes on a new form, the Spirit is moving yet again, shifting the world, unsettling things, making space for the transformation of souls and relationships and communities. God's Spirit is blowing still, with a restlessness calling us from our placidness, with a gentleness calling us into our freedom, with a flame filling us with transforming power. Could it be God has come down to see what we are up to, and now the Spirit is acting to push us in new directions, and another transforming moment is just outside our door? Maybe, possibly. Who are these people God will use to lead us into our own transformation as we form relationships with them? And are we open to the possibility God may need to break our schemes in order to give us a new tomorrow with dreams and vision, with clarity and with boldness to make the decisions required of us?